Beth Potter didn't even own a bike 7 years ago. Now she's a world triathlon champion and heading to the Olympics. Beth represented Team GB in the 10,000 metres at Rio in 2016 before making the switch a year later. Last year, she won the world title, securing her spot in Paris.
We were hoping for tears of happiness, but unfortunately it was the other tears. I don't even know where some of these parts are on a bike. I was very, very confused. Realistically, we could have multiple medals at this Olympics. Just everything I did, I would get beaten at.
Paris looming large, and then thinking that 36 hours out, you might not have slept.
How do I change these second and third places into winning? Like, how do I do that? Yeah, it was just a complete step into the unknown and something that was really quite scary.
Beth, let's start with this concept of the fact that there you are, as somebody who's never owned a bike before, who somehow manages to then win a world title at triathlon. How on earth does that even happen?
Oh, it's been such a long journey and quite a hard one as well along the way, but it's really rewarding at the same time. And yeah, to think back after the Rio Olympics, I hadn't even, really committed to triathlon at the time, and I moved to Leeds and, left my whole life in London and, had to buy some new equipment as well. And then, 7 years later to taking home the world title, it's just crazy.
It's kind of the stuff that dreams are made of if you're a very, very patient person, which I guess you are, and we'll talk about that in some detail in a moment. But can I just take you back to Rio, although you might be kicking and screaming on your way back there to discuss it, but the story of what happened there and what unfolded, which eventually effectively led to this switch in sports from athletics to triathlon. What happened at Rio 2016 for people that don't know that led eventually to you becoming a world champion triathlete?
So going into the Rio Olympics, I was working full time as a physics teacher in London, and my preparation had gone really well. And it was just one of those things, luck or unlucky on the day where I went to bed with a vomiting bug. And I was not able to perform at my best the next day, and I really struggled with that off the back of Rio. And I wasn't going there to medal. I was probably aiming for a top 12, which would have been really, really good. But just to have the disappointment of not performing on a global stage, and then just feeling really lost and confused, and didn't really know what I wanted to do, and didn't feel satisfied. So I just decided to completely change my life around and do something completely different out of my comfort zone, and just see where I could get to with another sport.
Normally we associate athletes with having this incredible mindset and this sort of power to overcome all adversity. I mean, when you're faced with a situation which is effectively out of your control, you've done the training, you've put all the prep in, and then you get this hideous vomiting bug that ends your chances of doing what you want to do on the Olympic stage. I mean, what does that do? How do you sort of overcome that and reset? Because that must have been an immense disappointment at the, it must have been very, very difficult to cope with.
It was really difficult, and I think actually my parents struggled more than me. And my mum is still traumatized by the whole experience in Rio. They came out to support me and be there, and hopefully, we were hoping for tears of happiness, but unfortunately it was the other tears. And I think I'm a very resilient person. I'm really tough, and I'm not very good at quitting things, but I just knew that the time was right to walk away, and I just needed something completely fresh, something different, something that I could be, a beginner at again and see improvement. And at the end of the day, I really want a global medal, and I've got one now, but I still want an Olympic medal, and that's my goal for this summer.
So that's really interesting, isn't it? That's a little mindset insight from you that actually it's all about, like, I want to win this medal. I've got what it takes. I know I've got what it takes to win this medal. If I'm not going to get it in that, I'm going to get it in this. I mean, is it as simple as that? Because I think we can all overcomplicate a thing, but is it as simple as saying, that's what I'm after and I've got to find a way to get there?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think for as long as I can remember, maybe the 2004 Olympic Games, watching Kelly Holmes, that was what kind of sparked it for me. Like I was, glued to the television watching those Olympic Games, and that's probably what got me into athletics properly. So yeah, to not be good enough, I just wasn't good enough on the track, to be honest with you. Like, I competed against the Africans, and they were just too good. They were better than me. But yeah, I think I've got what it takes to do it in triathlon, and I'm putting everything into it so that I can have a completely different experience this summer at the Olympic Games.
So what was it like going to buy your first bike, effectively at a later age to most that would have been competing on that triathlon stage? I mean, there's one thing to be able to run really well, but you've also got to compete in the swimming event, and also you've got to compete at the cycling part. So how did you sort of divide and conquer your time and apply yourself to make sure you were as competitive as you needed to be for the full picture?
I was very clueless about, even what the numbers meant. I now know what it means, but when I see things like 51, 52, I don't know what that meant. I just, everything was confusing. And then the group set, the numbers of the group set, and the handlebar width, I was like, I don't even know where some of these parts are on a bike. I was very, very confused. But I had a friend that was linked to Specialized at the time, and she put me in touch with someone at the Specialized factory down south near London, just outside of London. And I got a bike at cost price, and I was very excited, and just kind of looked at it until after Christmas. And then when I moved to Leeds on I think it was the 7th or 8th of January in 2017, I guess that was it. That was my introduction to road bike riding and being clipped into a bike. So it was all very, very novel and very new. And I definitely had to, learn very quickly and learn how to, change a tire and just everything. It was just a lot of information in one go. But I had a lot of very experienced people around me, and they were always willing to help. So that did help. But it was just a complete step into the unknown, and something that was really quite scary.
And are you just one of those people who's just up for the challenge? I mean, you're sort of walking into a completely different sport from the world in which you knew, which was athletics. Is the challenge of the thing something that really excites you?
I'm not sure if it was. I don't know if I would describe it as exciting in that first year. Like, it was new and it was something different. But I spent a lot of time, upset and down and doubting myself whether I made the right decision. And it was really hard. Like, I hadn't swum for 8 years, and other than on and off when I'd been injured on the track, so I'd go and do some cross training. But I hadn't been in a squad environment in the pool for ages. I'd never done any proper cycling training. And then to top it all off, I was going to the track and training with boys because I was too quick for the girls that were, there still. So I was just, everything I did, I would get beaten at. So I would get dropped on the bike. I couldn't keep up in the swim because I hadn't used those muscles in years. And then I'm training with people much, much better than me on the track, and I would just be far behind and also tired from all this new training. So just, everything about it. And I did start writing a diary of it, like, just personally, just so I could look back and remember how hard it was. But I think I very quickly gave up on that because it was just, everything was just so hard. I was tired and I was hungry all the time, and it was just tough. And I remember I was actually living with Johnny Brownlee at the time, and I just can't understand how he was doing all this training. I was like, how are you doing that again?
So what does that, for a regular person, what does that look like, the amount of training? Like, what does a typical day for a triathlete look like who's training, like you say, to this capacity?
I mean, let's take tomorrow, for example. We've got a 90-minute swim in the morning, which will be longer sort of aerobic reps. So anything up to like 10 minutes per rep, but just easy and kind of technique. And then we'll come back, have some breakfast, and then we'll head out on the bike for 3.5 to 4 hours, just again a long aerobic steady ride in the Yorkshire Dales. Probably have a lunch stop somewhere out in the Dales, and ride back home. And then a little sit down, some more food, and then an easy half an hour run. So that's just a typical day. And that's just an easy long aerobic day. So it's not even including any hard sessions. So it's a lot of training, and it's a full-time job for sure.
Did you ever just think, what the hell am I doing? Because I know it's been a real slog for you to make that transition from 2016 to winning the world title last year. It's been a lot of years in the middle where it's been a real slog, as you've just described. Did you ever just think, oh my God, this is too much. I need to think again?
Yeah, I think there was definitely moments where I thought, like, how am I going to bridge this gap? Like, how am I going to get better? But I have seen such big improvements over every single winter that I've done. And I think that's what's kept it alive for me. And seeing those improvements and being able to improve week on week, month on month, it's nice and it's rewarding, and it's progress there that you can see. So I think I always knew that I could be quite good at it. And with it finishing with a run, I just had to get to that stage and be fresh enough to use that superpower sort of thing. But yeah, it's taken time, and that's definitely something that I wasn't good at when I moved to Leeds. I wanted it all now, and I wanted it right here, right now. That's what I wanted, and I had to kind of learn to accept, just to let go, and just do the process, enjoy the journey, and the results will come. And I think definitely over the last couple of years I've learned to do that, and yeah, the results have come.
How do you do that? Because there's plenty of people out there listening, watching, that sort of think, oh God, like you've said, why can't I achieve what I want to achieve right now in this very moment? And it does take much longer than that sometimes to get to where they want to get to. I mean, how do you get to can you train yourself to be more patient?
I think the biggest thing for me is just being consistent and, turning up day in, day out, just doing the training. Not every day is amazing. Today, for example, I didn't have a great swim in the pool, but I was tired because of the weeks of accumulation that I've already got, but I'm not stressed about it. I've got the work is done. And I think it's just about being consistent and taking the sessions off. And if you're consistent in training, that will start to kind of shine through in your racing as well. And I think, just setting realistic goals every year. So not trying to set the world alight, but, aiming for just setting your own realistic goals from year to year. And I didn't actually have win the World Championships on my goal list last year. My goals for last year were to qualify for the Olympics, and to win the World Championships on top of that was a very nice surprise. So yeah, I think it's about just being realistic and being consistent in your training.
And having goal setting. I mean, you say that you didn't mean necessarily to win the world title last year, but how important is goal setting for an athlete, especially when you're looking at sort of, various timestamps ahead that you've got to hit, like for instance, the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, I think, our British triathlons policy for qualifying for the games is the toughest in the world to qualify for. There's 2 races, the Paris Test event and the grand final in Pontevedra last year, that I had to finish on the podium. And that's a big ask anyway, because with a triathlon, what I've learned is there's so many things that can go wrong. It's not like a track race where you can control, what time you're going to run, or, it's not like that. There's so many things that are out of your control, like whether, someone cuts you up on the bike, or if you have a bad swim because of, like other bodies around you. There's a lot of it that's kind of out of your control. And I think being able to perform in those 2 days was really key for me. And then actually winning them both I had to really focus on what my goals were for those competitions. And Alistair Brownlee said to me, he was a bit of kind of helping me as well. And he said to me, you need to go there and you need to go win. And at the time, this was the year before, I was like, that's a really big ask. Like, that's 2 days that I have to be on form. Like, that's a big ask. That's a really big ask. And I never thought I'd do that. And I did it. I thought a podium at both was possible, but I didn't think I was going to win both. So, I've learned to kind of believe in myself a little bit more off the back of last season.
So what do you think the difference was, Beth? What was the difference between you thinking, okay, I want to podium, and actually winning? Is there something that you can pinpoint as the difference in both of those cases?
I did start working with a psychologist on this, because I found that the year before I was, consistently finishing second or third on the kind of world stage. And I said, like, how do I change these second and third places into winning? Like, how do I do that? How do I win a race now? And yeah, I think it's, yeah, they said that my kind of physical ability was up there, but my, mental ability was probably maybe a 7 out of 10. So I've really had to work on, I think staying calm under pressure. That's been a big thing for me. And also just when it gets to crunch point, just backing myself and believing that I can do it. And it's just about who wants to hurt the most. And I can do that in training. So I can hurt the most in training. So why can't I do it in a race? And I think that's something that I've really had to work at this year. And it's happened.
So that's interesting, isn't it? What was stopping you before, do you think, from sort of taking what you knew you could do on the training field or pool or whatever it might have been, and actually converting that into a race day performance?
I'm not sure. I think it's been partly a bit of both. Like every year I've got a little bit stronger. So that's obviously going to help. So by the time I get to the run, I've got more in the bag. But then also I think, being in those situations where I'm in the front pack and I'm feeling good. Yeah, I think I have this kind of internal dialogue that I go through, and I'm speaking to myself, and anyone that kind of is in my head would think I'm crazy. But yeah, it's just about constant reinforcement that I can do this. There's evidence that I can do this, and being positive, and I just enjoy it. I love that kind of bit in the race where it's nerve-wracking and you're like, how long is this going to be? How long is this going to be for? When should I go? When should I break them? And I find that enjoyable. I know people at home probably don't find it enjoyable when I leave it quite last minute, but I'm always I'm in control, and I feel like, yeah, it's something I've definitely had to work at, and I don't know if I would have got there without the help.
That's really interesting. I want to imagine what a race is like for you then. So can you take me through it? Because I want to know, like, when these internal voices have to necessarily kick in. Do they kick in all three aspects of the competition, or are they there in one particular part, or do you have to sort of dial them up and dial them down? I mean, I'm just sort of thinking about how you sort of preserve your energy, your concentration, your focus throughout the course of a triathlon. How does that kind of break down? I'm really interested to know.